The Vagina Monologues is based on a set of interviews by Eve Ensler, who went around interviewing countless amounts of women from different backgrounds, and she compiled all these interviews and created what's now known today as the Vagina Monologues, and she compiled them into a presentable form. So what we're doing with the show is we're bringing it to a local stage using many of our local women who are not involved in theater. They're faces that you'd see around your community, and we're using this as a platform to empower those around us in order to prevent different types of issues that we think need to be addressed, like domestic violence, rape, sexual harassment, that type of thing, and bring these issues to light in a positive way.
Well, I am the angry vagina, and it's actually kind of a metaphor for a lot of the irritation and obstacles women face day to day. But it's a good way to keep people in and get their interest, is to start off with that anger, because it really gets your attention, and then it evolves into something more humorous, and then we kind of end on why we're angry and not wanting to be angry anymore. So it's a very fun one.
My character in the monologue is a woman who has pretty much denied her womanness, I guess, for a period of time, until she comes in contact with an individual who teaches her the beauty of her own body.
I was in the show last year, and the role I'm doing this year is my vagina is my village. And it has to do with the woman that survived a rape camp. The Bosnians apparently had these like institutionalized rape camps to, I guess, you bring the morale down of the people in addition to slaughtering them. So she is a survivor, and it's a fascinating role. She's starting off. She doesn't talk. I mean, she uses the word vagina, but there's really more an allegory going on. She talks about green fields and rivers flowing over sun-baked stones, and the analogy is that she was in a happy place, and then so she talks about the happy place, and then she switches over to what happened. And it becomes dark, and then she goes back, grasping this memory of when she was in a happy place. And then the next mention, she talks about being brutalized even more, and she's gradually losing what she loved and her memories as she's been brutalized here. By the soldiers, and then at the end she says, I have no place to go.
One of the biggest misconceptions that I see when bringing up the concept of a show like this is there are many out there that think that the show might be vulgar or raunchy or a perversion of the message that we're trying to bring across. And to get a real idea of what this show is about, one would have to experience it firsthand. You can't take the monologues out of context. They're supposed to be, they're designed to be delivered in a certain order, because it takes you kind of on a roller coaster of emotions that many people that are going through these experiences actually have to endure. And one can always go on YouTube and maybe pick out a monologue and look at it and then get some type of idea of what they think the show is about, but that's nothing like seeing it firsthand. So that's probably the biggest misconception.
Another misconception that I've come across in working on this show for a couple of years and being a part of it is that it's for women. And I think that's a misconception even with women's issues and women's messages and women's movements is that it's about women and it affects women and it's for women, and so therefore it carves out the whole population of men. They're not invited, right, to the dialogue. And very much so, this production is completely opposite of that. It acknowledges the need for both parties to be healthy in a relationship. So men, women, boys, girls, everyone in our community. It isn't about women. Women are kind of the center of families because they do, they pick what the kids are eating and what the decision maker, and they kind of move the dynamic of the family. They're the life makers, obviously, because they give birth. But this production has to do with healthy human beings, healthy community, healthy interactions. It's not about just women. I think that how Sergio said that people do get kind of a judgmental reaction to the title, and even with the word vagina, you get people to really react to it and judge a whole production by the cover. And that's really unfair, because even if we take classics like Shakespeare, which in many Shakespeare classics, we're talking about incest and abuse and murder. I mean, vulgar, completely vulgar, and what our society would judge as unacceptable and criminal vices. People do still treat it as relevant because it's the arts. And so we're trying to change a culture of taboo in our community that has to do with domestic violence. And I think the best way that you can change culture is with culture, and so that's what we're doing. We're using the theater arts so that we can create a dialogue and change the culture in our community.
Well, right now our goal is to use the funding, use the funds that we raise to go towards establishing a women's resource center on the CSI campus. We find that there are issues that come up on campus that occur between students, and some students feel like they don't have a place to go. They don't have a place to voice their discomfort or to address like an assault, because it occurs and I hear about it. I'm a small business owner. I have clients that come in very often telling me about these experiences, and they don't even know that they need to be addressed. They feel like, oh, it happened and then that's just the way it is and that's where it ends. And what we want to do is help to provide a space on campus that people can utilize to maybe learn more about how things should be, and maybe even help others that are going through it as well.